Etherpad, making it so much easier. Okay.
Okay, I think we could start. Hello, I think we can get started now. It's 10 o'clock. So welcome to the I2NSF meeting here in Montreal. I'm sure you've seen this thing plenty of times this week. So if you haven't read it yet, now's the time. Okay, I suppose you've finished reading it. So here's a bunch of stuff. We have our charter, our mailing list. We need a minutes taker and a Jabber scribe. Now, I'm also in the Jabber room, but still need somebody to scribe. But first, somebody to take minutes. Anyway, thank you, Ted. And Jabber scribe. Just need to be in the Jabber room and relay if anybody wants to send. There's not a lot of people in the Jabber room, so I don't suppose that this is going to be a very difficult task. Come on, we need a Jabber scribe. We can't proceed unless we have a Jabber scribe. Okay, thank you. So Roman is taking the dual roles of AD and Jabber scribe. Blue sheets are going around, and please fill them up. Okay, so there's our agenda. It's also in the title of the Jabber room. And minutes taker, please do it on the Etherpad, unless it's really uncomfortable for you. Okay. So from Prague to now, a few things that happened. If you haven't been following closely on the mailing list, we had an IPR scare where the University of her authors published an IPR statement that they had patents on the Yang models in the documents and were willing to provide licenses on a random basis, but perhaps for a fee. That kind of thing scares people in the security area. So we're having a bit of a scare, but then we got them to change the IPR terms to free as long as you're implementing the RFC, the potential resulting RFC, and unless you're in litigation against the university, which should be good enough. At least a lot of other documents, especially pretty much anything from Cisco, comes with this kind of IPR statement. So we're probably fine. And those people who were alarmed on the mailing list were sated. Okay. So if anybody wants to weigh in on this now. Okay. By the way, the room mic is right there by the door. It's kind of a strange place to put the only room mic, but if somebody wants to say everything you're doing here is stupid and then stomp out, that's what the mic is for. Well, so you can do some other things. Linda, do you want to take the milestones?
Okay. Since the IETF 104, this applicability draft is finally finished all the review and is moving to IESG. And we have requested Yang Doctor review for all our Yang modules. Those are the important deliverables by our working group. We get lots of comments, and the authors are working to address them. There's a capability one. We have completed working group last call. Yes.
I just wanted to go back to Romain Danilo as the responsibility. I just wanted to go back to the status of the applicability document. We're actually a little further along than waiting for sector and ops to review. It's on the IESG telechat the next time. So I believe it's August 8th. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for moving this forward. It has been a long process. The capability one is also moving forward. We have requested IESG to move forward. Good, thank you. Some administrative issues. The young modules, we have lots of comments from the young doctors. We want to resolve all those issues before we move forward for the working group last call. And there's, I think that's the main progress for those. And for the IPsec flow protection, maybe you want to say a few words? We actually had a joint meeting with the IDR working group in the routing because there's several proposals of IPsec control simply because more and more SD-WAN network coming to place and needing the controller-based IPsec control. So we had a joint meeting that was yesterday, right? And you missed it, okay. And so maybe you can give a few more update on the flows.
Well, I missed it. So the flows seems to be well, wrapping up. We've been through working group last call. The Yang model stirred up the whole issue of how do we encode IANA registries in documents, and we finally decided to just use the number from the registry, and so that if IPsec comes up with a new algorithm or outside of IPsec, I mean, anybody from Russia might come up with a document saying how to use one of their ghost protocols in IPsec, and then it usually gets published and they get an IANA number that without any IPsec involvement, and we don't want to have to revision our document every time something like that happens. The way, if we're just using numbers from the registry, then and an implementation can start using the ghost protocol without any problems, without any need for us to rev the draft. So yeah, the draft seems to be on its way out, probably submitted to the ISG maybe today, maybe next week. And that's it. And it looks like we're pretty much done with most of our documents. I mean, well, there's the gap analysis terminology, but they too are on their way out. Okay.
Actually, we decided that we'll keep them there until we finish the work and then decide to publish with the last document maybe.
Okay. Seems like we're...
For the IPsec, I want to add one more comment to it. So this SD and IPsec flow protection draft only covered the initial configuration for the IPsec, the policies, and there's two cases, right? And there's another scenario which is for the rekey mechanism. That is also that is covered by a different draft, which was discussed in the dispatch, right? The control IKey. Controller IKey. That's a different aspect, right? Okay.
If we're having a conversation, we use two mics. The controller IKey is kind of a different document that's supposed to do something different. I mean, our document has two modes of operation, or cases as they call them, the IKE and IKELess, and the controller IKE is trying to do something that's kind of in the middle. So we could, the documents that we have do rekeying just fine. I mean, in the IKE case, then the IKE implementation does the rekey, and in the IKELess, then the controller has to periodically replace the keys, and the document supports that. So we don't really need controller IKE for that. Controller IKE is kind of, well, a middle ground that we've seen in this working group, and we decided not to adopt. And maybe it's going to get adopted somewhere else. But in any case, we don't really need that for the scenarios that we are covering.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Okay, here's the agenda. Any objection? If not, we will move forward. Here's basic summary of all the data models to be generated by this working group. The capability one, that's the base data model. That's a base information model, which is moving into ISG requesting. And then we have the data model itself. The data model, we have one base model. And then we have detailed IB interface. We have individual ones to be more detailed built on top of the base model. And that's it. From here, I will just pass it to the first presenter for the hackathon. What is it?
Yeah, hello, this is Paul Zhang from SKKU. So basically, last weekend, my SKKU student and ETRI in Korea researchers participate in I2NSF hackathon. This is the 9th hackathon. So amazingly, 3 years, 9 consecutively, we did a hackathon. So this time we tried to demonstrate I2NSF framework and interfaces can be used by the public cloud platform and with commercial power system as well as open source Suricata for web editor. So this is the build system. This hackathon we implemented those our draft, okay, except the security policy translation document. You can see full draft our working group document. So at the beginning of this working group session, Chair Linda and Yaob mentioned those are their model draft are already ready. My SKKU team modified their model draft reflecting young doctors' reviews. Except the NSF-facing interface data model draft, 2 things are left. So I will explain later next data model slides. Okay. So this is the poster. This is my team, and including ETI researchers, okay, and also my student Jae Hong. So this is the I2NSF system having an NSF framework. Okay. So this time we have the commercial power. It is called the WINS. WINS providing fiber service in South Korea, and also those platform is based on ETRI SOA cloud system. It stands for security on air. So security is everywhere, yeah, like air. Okay, that's the name is security on air. So basically, you can see in the middle we have I2NSF security controller, and the left hand side I2NSF user. So here vendor management system, especially the WINS firewall vendor providing firewall virtual network security function. Also, Suricata web filter, they are integrated on top of public cloud system. So we demonstrated 3 interfaces. So they platform providing you can see graphical interface specify network security function facility capability. So we specify, and then using registration interface can be used to register NSF into security controller. Also, consumer-facing interface specify operator high-level security policy specified. For example, during a work time, employee cannot access NS web services such as YouTube and Facebook, etc. And then that policy will be translated by security controller, especially security policy translator. And then that policy is delivered over NSF facing interface. So this figure shows this is an entry router, and then you can see this is Srikata, this is a firewall. So they are linked each other using service function chaining. Okay. And then case one, we tested the two cases. The first one is you can see SNS web filter during work time. Employee cannot access SNS, the social network service cannot access. This second one is also just block or access to website using Win's firewall system. So the lessons are, our system can be run on top of a public cloud system, as well as previous our open stack platform. Also, we verified the major three interfaces: consumer facing, NSF facing, and restoration interfaces. So we implemented all on top of a public cloud. Also, we showed the security policy translator. So security policy translator, in my opinion, very the useful tool to empower the deployment of I2NSF system in the real world, because the high-level young already prepared for working on RESTful, and also NSF facing, especially device-facing interface young model. Those high-level young model and low-level young model can be linked using this translator. So I will explain the last talk in this session. So again, we integrated the I2NSF system on top of a commercial platform with the commercial firewall. That is, I think, a very good, our progress. So this is a video script. So you can visit and you can see the nice video clip to show whole process, register NSF, and also specify user high-level policy. Also, we can show the process of translation, and also we can demonstrate the two cases, the web filter and the firewall. So this is an open source project. So the vendors and operator, also other universities can take advantage of our project, because we share all source code. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a really good hackathon demonstration. Actually, I talked to Paul yesterday. We probably will introduce this hackathon to the ONUG. They have a security, software-defined security services. I think this will be a good reference. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Yavnir from the floor, no hats. So I think it's very encouraging that you're working with a commercial firewall. Do you think that in the future you'll be able to work with other commercial firewalls, especially the more popular ones, like from Cisco and Palo Alto and former employer that I shall not mention? Or is this, because Wins is one that I've never heard about before.
Yeah, in Korea, some company, so maybe not the international wide. So, but it is famous in Korea, So I think a Cisco or some Juniper other vendors case, in order to integrate their firewall, they needed to implement NSF facing interface, also restoration interface. So if they are willing to implement that, we can definitely test together. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, Diego.
Diego Lopez. Is about because this morning I was discussing with the
the chair of the NMRG about intent based and the like. And one of the things that we are looking for is precisely a way of somehow formalizing, intent languages, no intent, because formalizing intent is an endless task. But the idea was precisely to try to find some common patterns and common semantics in the. Do you have a formal definition of the language you use at the upper layer? For the definition of the policies and the like.
So that is a good question. So you can see the let's see, consumer-facing interface. So you can see consumer-facing interface. The basic important thing is the ECA policy rule, right? So according to that ECA policy rule and our consumer-facing interface data Young model, so this interface is just a one-to-one map. So exactly according to the data Young model. So in order to provide intent-based security service, currently my research lab also has interest in it. We need to process some, for example, natural language processing, for example, from user, specify more flexible the specification of a policy. We need to understand, right? So right now we just want to map.
Okay, so for the, let's say, intent interface, you use exactly ECA. The same
exactly,
ECA that is the capability. Yeah. No, it's a thing that this could be a valid model, at least for the underlying semantics in most cases. So yeah, good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on the data model.
Oh, actually, there's no. Yeah, I can say.
Okay, sure.
Let's see. Yeah, somebody. No, you refresh this one. Where are we? Oh, okay.
So, hi.
Hello, yes, we're seeing you.
Okay, can you hear me?
We hear you very well.
Okay,
thank you.
Perfect. I think the light is not very good, but the sound is good. That I think it's enough. Well, good evening from Spain. Morning there in Montreal. Okay, let's go. Next, this is Gabriel Lopez from the University of Murcia, and I'm going to present the last updates of the HDM flow protection, IPsec flow protection draft. Well, first, just a quick summary of the last changes. Now, from version 3 to version 4, now we have two names for cases. We have the IQ case and the IQ-less case. And perhaps the main change is that now we have divided the model in 3 parts. We have the IPsec common model with the container and groupings and types which are used by the IQ and IQ-less models. We have also the IPsec IQ model and the IPsec IQ-less model. Okay, next, please. Okay, now, yes, summary of the changes from version 4 to version 5. Well, first, we have addressed all the comments from Martins, from the Jack Doctor. We have improved the description of every element in the models. And we have also reviewed the format of all the models. We have addressed also we have addressed also the comments from poll voters and also from Tero. Thanks again for your in-depth and very useful review. We have update. We have simplified the notification for the AKLS case. We have simplified the expire and acquire notification. And we have also added to new notification in order to represent the to allow the network security function to notify near secret number overflow, and also to notify the controller about bad SPI number. Next, please. Well, we have also simplified the state data in the models in both the AKLS case, but mainly in the IKE case, where we have mainly left the state data related with the IKE and try to remove the details of the child SAs in the IKE case. We have also improved the security consideration section, mainly in order to try to define the security requirements that the NSF has to apply in order to allow the communication between the NSF and the security controller before the NSF is able to register in the security controller. We have to allow the traffic between both entities. We have improved the section 531, the wiki process. Yes, the wiki process is still in the draft. It has not been moved to any other document. We have included a new section, the 534, about the way the security controller discovered the NSF and how the NSF has to register in the security controller in order to be able to enter in the SDN domain. Next, please. Well, we have, regarding the crypto algorithm, we have take a simple approach by including the integer with where the security controller has to point the reference to the AANA number to identify the algorithms. This topic is under discussion in the working group. Don't know if there is any new regarding the meeting that you had yesterday. There you have an example for the encryption algorithm type. Well, there's a typo in the model, thanks Tero. To detect it, you have to make use of the UIN16 type, not 32. Well, next, please. Next. Okay. We have also included examples for the different models. The current version of the draft includes AKK's example, where we make use of tunnel mode in a gateway-to-gateway scenario, and making use of X.509 certification or authentication. There is also an AKLX example, in this case making use of transport mode in a host-to-host scenario with PAS-key authentication. And we also provide examples of the different notifications that now are included in the AKLS case. Next, please. Okay, we have validated the model making use of PDAN, following the rules specified by Martin and by the Jan model requirements. We have also tested the model in a sysrepo environment where we are able to install the 3 modules. And finally, we have validated the examples included in the draft, making use of the Django implementation. Next, please. Well, finally, our idea is to submit a new version 6, because in the last days we have had some email exchanges with mainly with Valerie. Thank you, Valerie, for the comments. We want to clarify some text in the draft. Also, we have to fill the AANN consideration section, and it's everything okay. Then finally, to request the publication to the AESG. And that's all. If you have any question.
Hi. So in previous meetings, you've mentioned your running code. Can you say a few words about that?
About the running code. Yes, we have the source codes to test the model. Currently, this source code is based on the previous version, but we have to update the code to this last version. Well, we are waiting to have a more stable draft version, because the changes from the last version to this one are very intensive changes. So our idea is to adapt the source code. The link to the Git repository was presented in the last meeting, but if you need them, I can send then it again to the mailing list, no problem.
And just for the record, this is Diego Lopez again. We have had a student working with us during this last term. And what we have done is using the code these guys in Murcia have precisely to implement a key distribution schema in, an IPsec distribution or setup schema for NFV. So what we do is that to make a deployment using the models that we have and using our network orchestrator OSM to deploy VNFs that communicate, can use IPsec as defined in the model. So what we have tried to make is demonstrating that it is applicable in in the case of NFV deployments and based on control service models.
Yes, thank you, Diego.
And we are waiting for the new version.
Thank you, Diego.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
That card.
Hello, everyone. Again, this is Paul from SKQ. So basically, the 5 data young models are updated. Also, I submitted, during this working group session, I submitted a revision letter with the revised draft link to each of young doctors who gave us the review. Okay. So basically, our data models are conform to the information model draft of NSF capabilities. So the the base Yang model is the SU's capability data model. Based on that, we providing 4 interfaces, especially consumer face interface and NSF facing restoration interfaces, also NSF monitoring databases. Right now, you can see the first capability data model and second, third, fourth consumer NSF facing restoration interfaces data models are revised according to Young Doctor's comment. So we had 9 IETF hackathon project last 3 years, and we awarded 4 times during hackathon. So my students are encouraged with these kinds of awards. Okay, thank you. So we updated according to a Young Doctor. So we address most of comments are addressed, except NSF facing interface data model case. 2 comments. The first one is so the access control list Young module has the overlapped some definition with our NSF facing. So we need to import and reuse the ACL definition. So, but it takes time. So we reflected that one last, probably next Wednesday, we reflected that replacement. Well, second one, also Susan's capability data model and NSF facing data model case, we define difficultly, which means the NSF facing case we define again. So Young Doctor saying, why don't you use capability data modules definition? So we will use. So those are, I think, straightforward. We can reflect 1 week enough, and then we can divide and submit, and then we can ask for a working group last score. But other consumer facing and restoration interface are ready for working group last score, I believe. And so I pretty much explained. So the capability data model case, the major comment is about the security considerations. We tried to use recommended template, and also we added the 2 things. So possible attack related to capability data module. So we added the 2 sentences. Okay, and next, data and time case already built-in time. So we just use this built-in data and time rather than we defined again. And also we had some misleading definition time zone. So our intention is a time interval. So interval starting time and end time. So we replace that term. So we replace time zone with the time intervals. So ACL number is not used, so we delete. And descriptions are improved according to Young Doctor's comment. Again, the security consideration we added. Okay, I showed, right? And then NSF facing, this second one. Okay, NSF facing case. Other comments are addressed, but you can see the ACL, especially some definition. This is some ACL. So packet matching case, we reuse the ACL definition. And secondly, I mentioned the capability data model and NSF facing data model. They have a common definition. We just define capability data model, and NSF facing just reuse by importing. Okay, so those are, I think, we can do next several days, and then we can revise and submit. the consumer-facing case we revised according to Yang Doctor. Major thing is accessor control. So policy management authentication method we can using list, so we can accommodate a possible authentication method. So the type is now list rather than I think a container. And then registration interface. So registration interface case we revised Yang Doctor. So we revised the Yang module structure according to the guideline. So this is the developers guideline. So we revised, and also we using more. You can see NSF registration prefix. Yeah, previously a little confusing some prefixes. So we using this prefix, minor issue. And then previously we didn't support the IP version 6 address. Now we support the IP version 6 address as well as the IP version 4 address. And then we revised the example. Okay, IP version 6 address is allowed. Okay, and also NSF port address being changed NSF port because it is misleading, because we have already addressed. So we changed the NSF port, network security function port, and we revised the security considerations according to guideline. NSF monitoring data model case is not ready for working group last call, so we are planning to implement and show proof of concept next Singapore meeting. So my student and other university, Sungshu University, I believe 2 universities are working for the NSF monitoring data model. So next step is capability data model. This morning, our chair Yaob already request the ISG evaluation. So, and then other document case, consumer-facing registration interface, I believe are ready for working group last call. And NSF-facing interface case, we can wait until 2 major issues, just some refactoring and the reuse of a structure. So after that, I will let chairs to working group last call. A monitoring case, I mentioned that we preparing for testing for next Singapore IETF meeting. Okay, this is appendices. I believe you guys can take a look, so we can show comment, old and new text, something like that. So you can take a look. If you have question, please let me know. I think I asked the young doctors having this revision details, and then if they have some comments, they'll let us know, and then we can reflect his comments or her comments. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for addressing all the young doctor comments. I know it's not easy.
Yeah. So my students are working very hard. So I appreciate their work. Yeah. So Diego, do you have comments or questions? Okay. Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Diego Lopez again. Is about the registration interface. I saw the document. I sent you an email yesterday. Probably you have not seen it. Right. I have checked. I have 700 emails waiting for me. And I imagine that this is the case of most of us. In the case of the registration interface, I miss precisely what we were discussing in Prague about pointing from the when the registration of a capability is made, a pointer to the Yang model or the Yang model fragment that can be used precisely to control that capability in another model. So it's a link. And well, if you remember, we were talking about the idea of using this Yang, which is the name, Yang mount, schema mount. to make that reference. I would like to see if this can be used, because that at the end would support the translation process like the one you are working in. It's the idea that if you want to touch this capability, go to this more specific one, that it would be the, let's say, the part of the NSF facing interface that can be used for managing the capability, simply.
Okay, good, yeah. Okay, also the one thing is that we all three interfaces are specified the I2NSF IPsec. So right now we can use the IPsec as well. Yeah. Okay.
I just remembered precisely when you mentioned this IPsec. It would be probably interesting to show that. I mean, the most detailed schema, Yang schema we have right now is precisely for the IPsec, what Gabby was presenting. Probably it would be nice to have in the registration interface to add an example, to say, well, for this capability, we can point to this other schema, and we were showing how we are relating both documents.
What do you mean? The Jan document?
I mean, the idea would be precisely to say we have these guys from Murcia are doing a Jan schema for managing all the IPsec. It would be about identifying at least one capability there and saying, well, this capability is described like that. That is about, I don't know, IGLES or IC SA setup would link to this piece of the and show a schema amount that would provide this.
Okay, so we can the schema amount accommodate IPsec. Do you mean?
The idea should be to show that. That's as an example, because it would be a good way of making a self-contained set of documentation.
Okay, I see. Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay, Roman? Oh, yeah, okay.
Just getting a glass of
water. Okay. So looks we can move on. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, security policy translation. Okay, so I think the security policy translation in I2NSF is important part of security controller because the high level Yang and the low level Yang are specified in our working group. The problem is how to link to each other, also how to translate. So this document, we specify the linkage between two Yang data model, and also we providing implementation guideline for architecture of translation and also process of translation. So the motivation of our draft is, you can see in the middle, you can see block my son's computer's smartphone from a malicious website. So this is a kind of intent Diego mentioned, right? So this is a high-level intent. So our hackathon case, we providing a graphical interface to put these kinds of my son's computer and malicious website. So this my son's and malicious websites are called the endpoint information. Okay, so somehow we need to. So right now we are using proprietary some method to populate this information into security controllers NSF database. Okay. The secondly, given this policy, our goal is we impose into network security functions such as firewall and web filter. So drop packets from my son's these IP addresses used by my son's computer. So the malicious websites, assuming malicious websites are harm.com and illegal.com. Maybe we can have more if we specify using endpoint information interface. So the goal is, given this high-level policy, we translate into this low-level policy, right? Most of the file repeater case, this IP address and this URL are specified rather than my son's computers and Mauritius' website, right? So the goal is how to translate. So we providing the some compiler theory translation. So this approach case we provide ease of security policy construction. We don't need care selection of appropriate NSF. What kind of NSF are required to provide this high-level policy? And secondly, efficient maintenance. Okay, in the past we can use XSLT is used to map high-level YANG, XML, low-level YANG. This is a kind of hard-coded, but our approach case, we provide more flexible or link high-level YANG and low-level YANG. So previously, our AD Lom, right? You mentioned that this draft case apparently looks like a software engineer, some design, something like that. That's why we adding some new section, explain the mapping list of data model pillars, such as the consumer-facing interface and NSF-facing interface. Okay, so this is this mapping. So this is NSF capability information entity. This is endpoint, such as my son's computer or some Mauritius website. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Roman Danilo. So back to the mapping, why does that mapping need to be standardized?
So because without mapping, the designer or some software engineer figure it out. So sometimes the mapping is not one-to-one, sometimes one-to-many, something like that. So in that case, we specify the consumer-facing and the NSF-facing. I'm aware of that, but developer can read our draft case. It'll be the harder time to figure out how can map or how to link each other. So that's why we come up with this draft.
No, I think I understand the gap, as in what the software engineer doesn't understand, and the kind of design of the way you kind of explain it. But why? But that all seems like that would happen in the same organization building the controller, right? So why do we need to standardize this? Typically one would do that because there's lots of different parties or vendors who we want to interoperate with, not that we want to standardize the different kind of roles inside the organization.
Because you can see this ER entity relation database case. So this information should be populated by some operator side. And also this NSF capability case provided vendors, right? So they need to, this data structure should be shared by each other, and what kind of fields should be populated. Without that, it is difficult to translate. So somehow we need to define the relation between capability base and some endpoint information. So this is the first one. The second one is this mapping. You can see the first line is consumer facing, for example, file repeater case. My son's source eventually IP address should be translated like this. Okay, so this is a consumer facing entity. This is a NSF facing entity. So these kind of mapping information explicitly specified in this document, so developer can easily understand how to implement their translator. Okay, Susan. Yeah.
So Roman, I asked Paul to try to. I was encouraging him to try to put this actually out as a standard. You remember that earlier this week I mentioned we're trying to import some of the work from I2NSF or some of the concepts into this secure VPN. I was hoping an example like this might give them an idea. Now, I don't know if this goes on in the security realm to be a published standard, or if we're just getting information to help us bootstrap. My concern is to see some examples so that as we get into a BGP secure VPNs, that I have some examples to point to. So I'm pleased to see this model and this work because it gives an example of how things might work for translation, and that's a difficult part. Okay, so I'm happy to see this for a different reason than the security vendors. You're straight security vendors. I'm happy to see it because I'm working with routing security VPNs, and this may give some clue. Whether it is or not, that depends on how security vendors look and how the implication, and Diego may have more comments on that, but I would.
Just to clarify to the author, this is the informational draft?
Yeah, this is an informational
It's not
draft.
standard draft, right?
Diego Lopez.
So sorry, thanks for that clarification. I did not notice that was informational.
Okay, what I think is that this is, as Sue said, this is valuable as an example. What I think we should try to standardize is how we defined or how we serialize these mappings. So it's about the mechanisms for showing the mappings, not about the mapping themselves, because the mapping themselves will be application specific or even function specific. And even this would be applicable not only in the case of security, it would be applicable in all other cases. And well, I see it very much connected, and we have been talking about this. I see this very much connected with some activities that have been discussed to start here in this meeting, precisely in a couple of side meetings and in the NetMod group, etc., about bringing Yang one or a couple of steps forward, so it can be more useful for real network operations. And one of the things is precisely how you build this kind of mappings from one model to another, one model that is, let's say, has a higher level of abstraction down to one that is have a lower level of abstraction, and which are the mechanisms to show this relationship, not the relationships themselves, but how you make the binding.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So point of clarification, the draft as I'm currently reading it says standards track.
Oh, probably, yeah, I need to do some typo. So I will change information. Okay, thank you, yeah.
Hello, Frank Xia, Huawei. Sorry, I haven't read very clear, detailed about this document, but my current feeling is that if of course this document will have its value for this work, but I think only when the document does not only cover the mapping between the customer-facing interface model to the NSF-facing interface data model. I think the more important part, or the better way to write this document should be, you should write something about your internal architectural design and the process, how to do the mapping, the general way to do the mapping, but not the mapping itself.
Okay.
So that's be a valuable contribution to the industry, because I can see that not only in I2NSF, in a lot of service provision model, we have two levels of service model or the data model. We need this kind of general mapping mechanism in any controller, right? So I'm more hoping to see this kind of things, but not only the mapping, And another point I want to see in this document is, if you, of course, you can give some example from the I2NSF perspective for how to translate the security service model to the security configuration model, but please give some more advanced examples. Because in your first page, you just give a very, very simple example. But actually, we want to see that, for example, if from the end-to-end way to see a security service, maybe in the past there are several security functions, and how we train them together, and how we map this kind of very usual model to the to the several part of models on the NSF facing model. So maybe I think that model, that example will be more useful, be more representative. Okay. So
basically, currently we explain simple web filter. Also, we can combine firewall and web filter logging together. So yeah, definitely the service function chaining case we need to more improve the example. But you mentioned so you can see this is the architecture of security policy translator. So we improve this example, but given this kind of architecture process, the vendors can easily implement. This morning, some Huawei engineer, I forgot his name, but he working for an ACTN. So they are doing, right, given some requirement that they try to configure low-level and transport network, right? So how Mian also I met yesterday, he also working for ACTN. He has also lots of interest in this work. But in my opinion, we try to focus on this concrete example, I2NSF first, and then we can generalize. If we broaden at this moment, I think maybe it takes 2 or 3 years. Who knows? Because this is not easy yet job, but we try to publish this information on RFC, and then this will be a starting point for other area. Yeah, that's my
Even you focus on the I2NSF specific model or something, but I think you still need to give us a general way or general system how it work to do this mapping.
So actually,
so that my point is that the mapping is not important, but the way how to do this mapping is important. That is useful and can be applicable for future use cases.
Yeah, could you clarify how to map means? So given the higher level yang, low level yang, so how to map some leaf node, some other leaf node link automatically? So what do you mean by your the mapping? So I cannot understand what do you mean by. So currently we are this is not a machine learning, right? So operator populate the mapping information manually into an NSF database. Okay, so maybe in the future, so given high level yang, low level yang, machine learning case can figure out, but I think it takes several years. Who knows? I don't know. So, but actually, I have an interest in it. But right now, I try to using some more rule-based some mapping is a feasible approach right now. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Susan. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Paul. I'm going to ask Frank a clarifying question, if that's okay.
Okay.
So Frank, my understanding is that you treasure the ability to have the architecture and the methodology of doing the translation between the high-level Yang data extractor and the policy detail, but what you really are looking is for the draft to specify the work is simply an example. Did I understand your comment?
Yes.
No, just you.
I think you're right. You understand my point. My point is that the example is not our goal, right? The example is just to illustrate or clarify how we do this kind of mapping. And I hope that this way can be applicable to other use cases for other, policy mapping. So that can, that will increase the value of the document. I just want to try to help you to make your document to be more valuable. If it's only suitable for the I2NSF use cases. Maybe it's useful, but it's not so useful.
So again, from the use case that I have with another set of work I'm doing in routing, this general use case is helpful for understanding high-level capability policy, high-level policy that we've developed for security, especially in the some of the IPsec stuff, and how to translate it. So I appreciated this document, where the working group takes it, what the AD does with it. The fact that it's currently existing is helpful.
Okay, so thanks for your clarification. So you give me some more confidence. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, Roman.
Hi, Roman Danilo. Pulling the thread that I think Frank teed up around the architecture, I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. The documents I've seen to date from I2NSF, and as I kind of read the charter, it was primarily first enumerate the architecture, which was drop the boxes, conceptually on a piece of paper. And then a lot of the work was then describing what is the role of those boxes and then what goes in and out of those boxes. So describe kind of the information flow, the APIs, and then describe the data models. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as I read this strikes me as something different because for the first time, we're going inside one of those boxes. So it's now not the API in and out of the box. It's about what's happening inside the box. Is that conceptually right? So we're not defining a new API of what goes in and out. We're not defining the data model of in, out. It's about something inside.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing is, I think last 3 years, the hackathon project. So I think this translation is, I think, the very useful part. I want to share to IETF, our community. So this can be expanded for the general, for example, some network configuration, as well as the security. So I believe we need to decide we can adopt this work for the I2NSF security first and then expand to other areas. So that is my suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful to know. I mean, I'm asking that clarifying question because that seems like a different scope, and we might want to talk about what that means relative to the charter. So I'd want to give it a quicker look.
Okay.
But I agree with the utility of everything you're describing to practically implement it, though.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So probably may I ask for working record mailing list, and then we can decide our group pursue this work or not. Okay.
Okay.
No, wait, hold on. Policy, you can't do a working group last call document.
Not last document. Right. It's not even working group draft yet.
Right. So you can't do a working group.
No, that was the adoption call. Adoption. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Adoption.
Yeah. Yeah. Adoption. Yeah. Not let's call. Sorry.
I do a split the charter. Make sure that we're good there.
Thank you. And please get us the results of the squint on the mailing list.
Yeah, of course.
So are you going to talk about the new draft you posted?
No, just in the end. It's open mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So we gone through all of them? Linda? Have we gone through all of her presentations?
Yeah, we're done. Just waiting. Yeah, we're done.
Okay, so I guess it's time for open mic, or any other business, as it is sometimes called.
Okay, this is Paul from SKKU. So right now, Rom mentioned the charter. Maybe we can take a look charter. So basically, as I understand, our I2NSF is focused on framework and interfaces, and those are primarily our goals. Maybe after our the main primary task, such as we are publishing or interfaces, data models, and then maybe we can consider some real deployment of I2NSF. I think the security policy translated is one thing. The other thing is during our hackathon project, so the interaction with other systems such as SFC, subject function training, also SDN controller, that kind of interface that are not specified. So to realize I2NSF, maybe we can add a new item that are model for those SFC I2NSF interaction, I2NSF SDN interaction. Yeah, that is my suggestion. Yeah.
Hi, Yavnir. I just want to mention that I've a couple of days ago submitted a new individual draft that's a profile of the SDN IPsec work for a specific use case within the data center. And this is not a working group draft. I'm not even asking for adoption right now. I might do that after the SDN IPsec draft goes through the ISG, and well, when it's really done, I might ask for adoption. I haven't decided that yet. I'm still going to be talking about it with both the SDN IPsec authors and perhaps other people who are interested in data center encryption. So just wanted to mention it.
Thank you. I do have a question for you. You have a NFV architecture draft, and then there's one translation. So what's your plan? The other draft to be dropped?
Depending on our So Linda asked a question. So we have another document about NFV reference architecture based on I2NSF. Probably you can click, and so that one is for how to develop I2NSF on top of cloud systems such as NFV reference architecture. So I think at the bottom, second one. So those are explaining how to implement the I2NSF on top of the ETSI NFV referential architecture. So we explain how to build I2NSF component, how to link I2NSF framework into NFV reference model. So if the working group think this is useful, especially implementation and deployment, I believe this is valuable. So we target at the informational artificial working group. If working group have interest in it, that is a possible item. Yeah. Right now, so we need we didn't discuss yet. Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's it, right? Thank you. We'll give you some extra time.
And if you haven't signed the blue sheets, please do so now. There's at least one here and one going around the room somewhere.